Neil Bannerman, occupation Director New Markets, age 35, personal development opportunities. If he had felt bad about things beforehand, Neil Bannerman felt an awful lot worse when his new boss suggested, almost casually, that he might benefit from personal coaching. He felt as if he had already failed and everyone knew it. Everyone could see it. It was at his first one-to-one review meeting with Rick, as he was having to learn to think of the man who for 3 years had been Mr. Edwards. He knew he would never be comfortable with that. They'd spent half an hour talking targets and refined one or two of his annual objectives, and now they were moving on to personal development opportunities. Or to put it another way, they were about to start itemising Neil's failures, inadequacies and insecurities. Rick was saying that he knew how tough it was for someone like Neil who had been promoted so rapidly. You must feel as if you have a foot in both camps. You still feel like one of the boys, but you're senior management. Everything changes with that last promotion. Might be worth booking some time with a chap we use. He calls it gravitas training, but I prefer to think of it as taking the chance to look at yourself and your management style in new ways. In his head, Neil said, "Thanks, Rick, but no thanks." What he actually said was, "Thanks, Rick. Great idea. Could always do with a little help. Really enjoying the challenge, by the way." Neil had been in the new job for just over 3 months, and he was terrified. Terrified when he went to bed at night, and terrified when he got up in the morning. Terrified for pretty much all the hours in between. But Rick was wrong. Neil doesn't feel as though he has a foot in both camps. He knows exactly which camp he is in. And he knows with the same degree of certainty that no part of his anatomy is ever likely to make it into the senior management camp. In fact, dealing with his former peers is, relatively speaking, the easy bit. Neil knows that he has a knack for encouraging people to do things his way and can get results. He's actually quite comfortable with his management style, neither too matey nor too remote. Now that doesn't mean that everything is plain sailing. He recently had to give a presentation to the 1,000 people in his team and was unable to sleep for 2 nights beforehand. It wasn't that he didn't know what he wanted to say. What haunted him was the thought of that moment when he first moved up to the mic. Would he be able to keep that scared catch out of his voice? If he couldn't, everyone would see how nervous he was. He'd even considered confessing this, throwing himself on his audience's mercy. I'm the new boy. But people want to be led by their leaders, not bail them out emotionally. In the end, he practically shouted his first sentence. He could feel the room jump, and as it was supposed to be a joke, it didn't work too well. People were still adjusting to the change of audio level from the previous speaker. But otherwise his speech went well, and he knew that the next time it would be easier. Besides, he knew that in such situations the dice were loaded in his favour. He was the top man, the boss, the one everyone else had to impress. His first senior management conference was 100 times worse. He hadn't been asked to do anything, just turn up and participate in a bit of syndicate working, get to know people. And it was terrible. He felt incapable of saying or doing anything that didn't make him seem even more of a fool. Just like Rick, everyone was very kind and very welcoming. They congratulated him. They looked forward to working with him. At dinner the first evening, he was invited to the chairman's table. Shop was forbidden. The talk was of politics, films, children, schools. The chairman was witty and provocative. Neil could think of nothing to say. In his syndicate, he forced himself to contribute, but he knew that he was coming across as gauche and ill-informed. Trouble was, he couldn't even bring himself to despise these people. He left knowing that he envied their ease, their familiarity with one another, their obvious right to be there. He envied them their marriages and their children, their cottages in France. His relationship with his previous girlfriend had ended 4 years ago. He left realising that accepting that promotion was a forever choice, that there was no way back, that he couldn't say, "Look, cancel all that. I'm not cut out for it. I'm happier where I was." It was a choice he was going to have to live with. And so he went to see Robert, the gravitas man, and it was love at first sight. In fact, he couldn't picture anyone more designed to increase his sense of inadequacy. Robert was beautiful, about 4 inches taller than Neil and perfectly dressed in a suit with wide stripes, a shirt with a scarlet stripe and a tangerine bow tie. He looked wonderful. Neil knew that if he wore clothes like this, he would look clownish. Robert's thick silver hair was cut short with the expensive art that conceals art. Neil tugged at his flopping fringe. Even Robert's voice was beautiful, dark brown, perfectly modulated. And like all the others, he couldn't have been kinder. He led Neil into a beautiful office with beautiful rugs, beautiful pictures on the walls, beautiful sofas. He asked Neil to sit on the same one as him. Too formal otherwise, might feel like a job interview. He checked that Neil was comfortable and then said, "Well, Neil, tell me a bit about how the last few months have been." Neil turned his head aside to hide the tears in his eyes.